She was born into darkness, but never felt alone. Until one night, when the one creature who understood her world disappeared into the rain. And for the first time she realized, silence can scream. This is the story of Emily Grace and the cat no one believed in. A bond beyond eyes, a reunion no one thought possible. The room was always quiet when Emily cried, not because she held back, but because she had learned, even at 5 years old, that sound often brought footsteps, and footsteps brought questions. And questions made her mother nervous. She was born blind. Doctors used words like congenital, non-progressive, complete. Her father just called her his firefly, small, fragile, and glowing with something the world couldn't quite see. Their home in Vermont was full of softness, rugs to cushion every fall, bells on doorknobs, lavender in the hallways. But it was also full of waiting to see what Emily would become. She rarely asked for anything, but sometimes, when the air turned still and her hands couldn't find something to hold, she whispered to no one, "I wish someone understood." She never thought anyone would. Until the day her father turned off the highway into a broken gravel driveway and said, "Let's go see something or someone special. Perfect. Let's continue." The animal shelter smelled of wet fur, pine cleaner, and something like old sadness. Emily stood still in the doorway, gripping her father's coat sleeve, listening. Barks echoed, cages rattled. But there was one corner, a far, quiet one, where no one made a sound. Her father guided her toward it slowly. "Most of these animals are waiting," the volunteer said gently. "Some longer than others." Emily's fingers brushed cold metal bars. Some cats meowed, reached out. One licked her knuckle. But then she stopped, halfway down the row, and tilted her head. "Is someone here?" she asked. The volunteer hesitated. "That one. Doesn't do much. He's blind." Emily knelt. Inside the cage was a tiny, frail kitten. His fur was a dull gray, his ears too big for his face. His eyes were cloudy, unfocused, and somehow beautiful. She didn't touch him. She just sat there, breathing. The kitten didn't move. Then, after a full minute, he leaned his head forward until his nose touched the tips of her fingers. Emily smiled. "I want this one." Her father crouched beside her. "He can't see you, honey." "I know," she said. "That's why he understands." They named him Oliver. He didn't purr much. He didn't play. But when Emily held him against her chest that first night, he didn't move for hours. And for the first time in her life, Emily didn't cry before bed. Emily and Oliver grew like roots, slowly, quietly, but tangled so tightly no one could say where one ended and the other began. He learned the rhythm of her steps before she ever learned the layout of the house. She tapped walls with her knuckles. He tapped them with his tail. At night, he would curl by her head, pressing his tiny paw against her cheek like a second heartbeat. She told him stories in the dark. He never interrupted. By the time she turned 9, Emily had memorized every creak in the floorboards, every change in the air when the seasons turned. And Oliver was always beside her, except when he wasn't. There were days he would vanish beneath furniture or into the closet, his breathing shallow. The vet said his blindness came from nerve damage, and there could be other things, soft murmurs no one could fix. Emily refused to accept that. She refused to speak of when, only while. Still, not everyone understood. "You're limiting her," her mother would say sharply over dinner. "She needs space, a proper guide, school, a cane at least." "She has Oliver," her father would reply. "He's not a solution. He's a crutch." But outside their voices, in the silent parts of the world, Emily walked hand in paw with a creature no one else saw clearly. And every time she reached out, Oliver was already there, as if they shared not just a home, but a thread, invisible and strong, pulling them through time together. Until one night, that thread was cut. It started with a sound, not a loud one, just the subtle click of a screen door not latching behind her. It was summer, the kind of warm evening where the sky turns peach and the wind smells like cut grass and thunder. Emily had argued with her mother again. Another talk about letting go, letting Oliver go. "He's fragile," her mother said. "You're holding yourself back because of him." "No," Emily snapped. "He's the only one who sees me." Then came the silence. That thick, stiff silence after words fall hard between people who love each other but no longer know how to speak. Emily stormed to her room. Oliver didn't follow. She figured he was curled in his usual spot under the piano, but he wasn't. At 2:14 a.m., she woke with her hand outstretched and empty sheets. "Oliver?" she called once, twice, nothing. Downstairs, the screen door hung open just an inch. The wind was stronger now. Her father searched the yard with a flashlight. Her mother drove around the neighborhood. Emily stood barefoot in the grass, turning slowly, whispering his name. By sunrise, the trees were quiet. Too quiet. They printed flyers, called shelters, left tuna bowls by the porch. But days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Neighbors stopped asking. The flyers faded, and Emily began to sleep with her window closed, not to keep things out, but to stop hoping something might still return. And every night after that, she'd press her hand to her heart, trying to feel a second heartbeat that was no longer there. The day the storm came, no one saw it coming. The sky had been clear that morning, almost unnaturally blue. Emily, now 12, sat on the porch with her knees tucked under her, listening to the hum of bees in the lavender and the rustle of her father's rake in the leaves. Her hair had grown longer. She wore it in a braid now, tighter, neater, like she was trying to hold herself together. It had been 6 weeks since Oliver vanished, the longest she'd ever gone without his quiet breath beside her. And she had stopped calling his name, stopped imagining the soft thud of paws behind her. At night, she tried to sleep on only one side of the bed to keep his space untouched. But hope, like anything left untouched too long, had started to rot. Then came the wind. It rose slowly, almost politely at first, a few tossed leaves, a low moan through the trees. But by late afternoon, the world had turned sharp. The air smelled electric. Rain slammed sideways against the windows. And somewhere, in the chaos of thunder, the power flickered and died. Her parents lit candles. Her mother read news alerts aloud. Roads flooded, trees fell. But Emily felt something else. It started as a weight in her chest, not fear. Something else, like a pull, a vibration behind her ribs. She stood up in the dark and said without thinking, "I have to go." Her mother grabbed her arm. "Emily, no, it's not safe." But Emily pulled away. She didn't ask. She knew. Out into the storm she went, coatless, shoeless, her hair snapping in the wind. The rain soaked her instantly, but she didn't slow. She moved by memory, by instinct, by something older than that. She crossed the street. She passed the gate. She stumbled over roots and broken branches, down the old path behind the woodshed, a path her father had once cleared and Oliver had once followed like a ghost. And then, in the roaring dark, she heard it. A sound so faint it might have been her own breath, except it came from the ground. A whimper, a meow, broken in half. She dropped to her knees, Her fingers searched the wet earth, leaves, stones, and then fur. Wet, matted, shivering fur. "Oliver," she breathed. He didn't move at first, just trembled. His breathing was shallow, rasping. One of his front legs felt twisted, wrong. She scooped him into her arms and held him against her chest, just like the first night they met. And for the first time in weeks, the storm stopped mattering. The only sound she heard was the slow return of a second heartbeat. The hospital room was quiet, except for the slow rhythm of the heart monitor and the soft beeping of machines she couldn't see. Yet. Emily lay still, eyes bandaged, a dull ache pulsing at the back of her skull. The doctors said the surgery went well. They told her the odds had been low, but she had been lucky. They used words like partial and adjustment period. But all Emily could think about was whether he was still lying at her feet. He was. She knew because she could feel the warm press of his side against her ankle. His fur had grown thinner in the past year. He walked slower now, slept more. But since the night she found him, Oliver hadn't left her side. And now, after 12 years of darkness, she was being asked to open her eyes for the first time. Her father's voice came from the corner. "You ready, sweetheart?" Emily nodded. Hands trembling, the nurse slowly peeled away the gauze. There was light. That was the first thing. A golden haze pouring through the window, soft and broken like melted glass. Then, shapes, fuzzy, colors, movement. Her eyes stung. The world shifted. Nothing looked like she had imagined. But then, she saw him, curled at the foot of the bed, head resting on his front paws, breathing slow. His eyes were pale, glazed like two moons behind fog, unseeing, unblinking. But he looked up anyway, and for one impossible second, he met her gaze. Emily covered her mouth and let the tears come, not because she was overwhelmed by what she could see, but because it wasn't what she saw that mattered. It was what had always been there, the bond, the silence, the heartbeat. Oliver blinked, once, slowly, and laid his head back down. Emily never described what she saw that day. Not really. When people asked, she would only smile and say, "Just enough." She did learn to read with her eyes, a little, took walks alone, learned shadows. But she never stopped reaching with her hands first, touching, listening. And Oliver, old, loyal, blind as ever, followed behind her. Not to guide, just to be there. Because some love doesn't need eyes. It just needs to know where you are. If this story touched you, share it. Someone out there might be waiting in the dark, just like Emily once was. And maybe, like her, they just need a sign that love can still find them, even if they can't see it coming. Like, subscribe, and stay with us. Because we believe every animal has a soul worth telling a story about.